Emily jumped out of bed, and both children knelt down on each side of Elf. "What are you?" Ben asked. "Are you a fairy?" Emily asked. "What are you?" squeaked Elf. "Are you giants?" Emily and Ben looked at each other and started to laugh. No one had ever asked them that before. It must have been catching, that laugh, because Elf started to laugh with them. They laughed so hard their tummies hurt. Of course, they were good friends now. Ben and Emily asked Elf so many questions, he hardly finished an answer before he was asked another question. How sad his story was. Big tears bubbled up in his eyes as he told his new friends he didn't know where his family had gone. "Oh me, oh my, what am I to do?" he blubbered. Ben said, "Don't worry, Elf. We'll help you find your family." "How exciting," said Emily. "I have been hoping for an adventure." The adventure begins. Plans were made for another picnic. The mystery to be solved was somewhere in the redwood forest. An extra peanut butter and jelly sandwich was requested for the lunchbox. Mrs. Buffington even put in some extra cookies. Of course, she hadn't met Elf yet, but she was a good mother and didn't want the children to get hungry. "Be home before dark, children," Mrs. Buffington reminded them. "We will," they both answered together. Elf was their guide. He sat on top of Emily's shoulder so he could hold on to her braid while she walked. Elf had been hiding under Ben's cap when they left the house. "Very stuffy under there," said Elf as he held back a sneeze. Emily said, "I wonder why Cat tried to jump up on you when we went outside the door." "That crazy cat nearly made me lose my cap," said Ben. This time the children walked much farther into the redwood forest than they had ever done before. As they walked, they noticed that the trees seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. The children startled a deer who had been taking a nice little nap in a hollow. Off he ran, deeper into the forest. "How did you get so close to the edge of the forest when you dropped into our lunch basket?" asked Ben. "I can't remember," moaned Elf. "I just woke up and I was sitting on that tree limb." His eyes were getting misty. "Now don't start crying again or we will never have our adventure," said Emily. Of course she was right, so Elf wiped his eyes on Emily's ribbon. Looking around, he tried to see just where they were. "That's it! That's it!" cried Elf. "What's it?" asked Ben. "The tree circle!" squeaked Elf. "I see it," said Emily. "Look, all the trees are in a circle, and there's beautiful green grass in the middle. Look at all the flowers growing around the outside of the circle. Can you smell the fragrance coming from them? It's all so beautiful," sighed Emily. Ben said, "What does it mean, Elf?" Elf said in a matter-of-fact voice, "This is where the fairies dance when the moon is full." "But," said Ben, "you're not a fairy, you're an elf." "Yes, but we live very close to the tree circle. In fact, the dancing and singing were becoming a bit of a problem to some of the older elves. Last full moon, I believe, one of my great-great-uncles complained about the noise to the fairy prince." "Oh, dear," said Emily. "Do you think that might have something to do with all your family disappearing?" "Keep going," said Ben. "We need to find your home." "Yes, yes," said Elf with excitement. "Walk around to the other side of the tree circle and look for a big giant tree." It took the children a while to walk almost around the tree circle, because whenever they got close to the flowers, the fragrance was so powerful, it seemed to be pulling them into the tree circle. "No, no," said Elf, "don't go into the circle, or something might happen to you." Emily, always ready for an adventure, couldn't help but step one foot quickly into the circle. "Oh, oh, what is happening?" cried Emily. "You're getting smaller," shouted Ben. And of course she was. Ben tried to reach for her, and he also fell in. How could such sweet children get in such a mess? Emily and Ben threw their arms around each other. They were so frightened. "Told you so," said Elf, who was now the exact same size that they were. Now it was Elf that was very much in charge. "Follow me," he said, as he took them each by the hand, leading them on a shortcut through the tree circle. When they started to walk through the flower border, Ben and Emily tried to pull back. The fragrance was so powerful they could hardly breathe. "Make a run for it," yelled Elf as he pulled them both through. "Wow," they said after breaking through the border. "That was scary," said Ben. "And wonderful," said Emily. "Just like a girl," said Ben. "Look at all the trouble you got us into." Emily started to cry. "You can't cry now or you won't enjoy your adventures," said Elf. He was really quite fond of Emily. So the little threesome stood up tall as they could stand, and marched off to find Elf's family tree. The family tree. There it stood, the Elf's family tree. This tree was so big around, Ben and Emily just knew their whole house could have fit inside. They laid on their backs, not Elf, of course, but Ben and Emily did, to look up, 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 trying to see the top of the tree. Never had they seen a tree like this one. "What do we do now?" asked Ben. "We go in, of course," said Elf, walking over to the tree and then looking from side to side. Elf quickly pulled the children behind a big green fern. Right in front of them was a door. It would have been a very little door if Ben and Emily were not so little as they were now. But since they were so little, they could have followed Elf right through the door. But wait, the door wouldn't open. "Oh no," shouted Elf, "a door spell has been put on this door." "What now?" said Ben. "Follow me," whispered little Elf. "I know another way in." Crawling on hands and knees, Ben and Emily followed Elf into a little hole in the ground, hidden under some very sticky bushes. The hole led into the tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, the children popped up like little ground squirrels and found themselves inside of the family tree.